greetings, and welcome. Welcome to this week's Real Talk with ZSJ. I am your host of Real Talk, Sister Zakia Sankara Jabbar. Welcome. We're back at our regular time tonight. Appreciate all of your, people rocking out with us last week, even though we had to change the time. So come on in, hit the like button. We're going to have part two. If you were here 2 weeks ago, our brother said he will be back in 2 weeks, and he is here. So drop your city and state in the chat. Let us know where you're tuning in from. And if you're tuning in from another country, let us know where you're tuning in from. Head over to YouTube and Rumble and subscribe to Real Talk with ZSJ. So while you all are coming on in the room, hit the thumbs up button. Also share. We want you to share this broadcast because this is going to be some really critical, important information that we want to get out to our community. And so I want to bring in Brother Siddiqui. Brother Siddiqui, welcome back to Real Talk. Tell the audience a little bit more about who you are and your areas of research. Welcome.
Greetings. Thank you for having me. Can you hear me?
Yep. Just wanted to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about yourself. Yep.
Excellent. I'm just going to do it briefly. I've been dealing with these particular topics: artificial intelligence, transhumanism, the singularity, pretty much all things technology, so to speak. But most importantly, how that relates to spiritual technology. Spiritual technology meaning the essence of who and what we are as African Black men and women, as well as that relationship to nature, the cosmos, etc. So that's that in a nutshell. I've been researching close to 30 years extensively, just digging deep. First that research, of course, started with knowing about myself and African history and world history and things of that nature. And then from that point, I got more specifically into particular topics. I realized with that research that it's all connected. And then understanding that I was able to make certain parallels that teachers weren't making, so to speak, in regards to the artificial intelligence, the technology, and things of that nature. So that was a lane that pretty much there really was no one there to deal with that from an African perspective, meaning research. So that helped get me here. I've done presentations and seminars and trainings, and I do consultations for people nationally and internationally and so on and so forth. So my purpose is to assist us moving forward. I have the tools. I know the tools. I know how to assist our people, quote unquote, train them to be able to help themselves to ascend, to transform themselves, to empower themselves, how to tap in authentically to authenticity, intuition, imagination, things of that nature, restructure their subconscious mind, restructure pathology, restructure the neurological self, central nervous system, disconnect from certain fears, certain traumas, and the triggers of those fears and traumas, and things of that nature. But real quickly, what I do have to do is give honor and reverence, first and foremost, to the ancestors, also to my mother and father. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them. My father is now an ancestor. My mother is still here. Also, besides my parents, my teachers, Steve Coakley, who is now an ancestor, of course, and Amiri Baraka, who is now an ancestor. And my teacher, who is still here with us, Ashra Kwesi. And of course, when we mention Ashra Kwesi, you have to mention and give reverence to his wife, Mary Ra Kwesi, as well. And there's other teachers, but those are the ones that I will mention here. So it's imperative that I do that because I stand on their shoulders. And I think it's important that we are able to do that. And we're able to do that with respect. And we're able to do that with honor. And we understand that whatever type of knowledge or application to that knowledge or wisdom, or even if we bring in some things to the table that haven't been brought to the table, even if we're um, bringing forth information that was not brought forth before by our teachers or our ancestors, we have a duty to respect what came before us and understand that we would not be doing what we're doing if not for them. And we're supposed to build on that knowledge. We're supposed to build on that wisdom and do it with honor and respect.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The last time you were with us 2 weeks ago, it was really a powerful show, and lots of people, wanted to have you back. And so I'm really glad that you agreed to come back. No, the one in the corner. Agreed to come back. And so I just want to hop kind of right into it. I want to do a little bit more housekeeping, seeing more people coming into the room. So I want to welcome all our newer viewers. As I stated at the top, make sure you hit the like button when you come in, and also share this broadcast. If you are listening to us if you're listening to us on Facebook or Twitter, please ensure that you go over to YouTube and Rumble and subscribe to Real Talk with ZSJ. Now that all of that is out the way, brother, I just want to thank you for this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful package that you put together in terms of the things that you were talking about, helping people, our people, overcome a lot of barriers, getting rid of fear and pathologies and things like that. And I just want to show people this magnificent work that you have put together. This package is a journal, there's a pen, there's a pencil, and it's just amazing. And just really want to thank you for the work that you're doing and providing these tools to our community. So I want to encourage people to reach out to you about how they can get some of these materials from you. But want to acknowledge that you are actually doing the work. Besides coming on these different platforms and talking about it, you are also writing. You are also, like you said, holding seminars and things like that. So I wanted to kind of get that out of the way.
Yes.
Now, did you want to say something really quick?
Well, yeah, thank you. First of all, thank you. I really want to thank you for purchasing that package. I'm really grateful for that. It's a lot involved in the package. I'll get into that later. However, for the listeners or people in the chat, in order to purchase my books, you purchase them directly from me, not Amazon.
Not Amazon.
Okay. That is on Amazon is not what we will be talking about today. It's my first book. I don't promote that book anymore. I don't do anything with Amazon. I do it all in-house. So please do not go get that book. Please get your books from me directly at Facebook. You can just inbox me, or Instagram, or you can email me. It's just my name, Siddiqui Bakari. And you see you see it up there.
Yep, so we got it up there for you.
Absolutely. So just email me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So whatever you want to pick up from here, let's go in.
That's right. So let's just get into it. So we talked about a few things. We talked about transhumanism. We talked about the singularity and all these things that are coming online now, that are online, and how they will shift, and how we're living literally right now through a paradigm shift. Mm-hmm. Can you give, just for newer people who may have missed the first episode, just give a brief recap of those three items, and then we'll get into some of the new information today.
I certainly can. So a major factor right now that we're dealing with in regards to technology and artificial intelligence, what kind of is the foundation of that, or the purpose of all of this, is what's called transhumanism. Now, what is transhumanism? Transhumanism is the merging of man and machine. Now, what does that mean? That does not mean what we are familiar with, meaning a human with technological add-ons, like a cyborg, a cyborg cybernetic organism, right? Or a prosthetic arm or leg that's basically technological, that enhances that person, not just for walking or not just for using it for particular what human body parts do, all right? But it's to enhance that person. Now, also, first and foremost, understand what this means. It means you're not human anymore. And maybe we'll get into that a little later too when we deal with law, because all of these different aspects, the judicial system, are part of whenever you talk about AI and technology, all of those things are part of it. Those 9 areas of people activity that Neely Fuller and Frances Cress Welsing talk about, they're all involved. And many areas besides those areas are all part of when we talk about technology, AI, transhumanism, etc. Now, what I mean by that is this. Again, the law or judicial systems, or if you deal with education, if you deal with, all the different aspects, politics, war, all of these things are part of it. War. When you deal with technology, I want people to be clear. When you deal with technology, there is an aspect of it that is military. It is for war. When you pick up your digital phone, that is an apparatus of war for the military, for this government, whether you recognize it or not. Every time you get on your computer, it is an apparatus for war, for the military. How do I know this? What do I mean by this? Well, what does the digital phone do? What does the computer do? Are you dealing with radiation, electromagnetic waves, and things of that nature? So I'm just laying this out so people understand. When we say transhumanism, you're talking about war. When you say AI, you're talking about war. When you say social media, you're talking about war. When you say the singularity, you're talking about war. That needs to be made clear first and foremost to even begin to understand the premises and the things that I'll be talking about, especially when I get into biological warfare, artificial intelligence, and the archetypal womb. Now, I'm coming full circle back to this because we understand that this is supposed to be a very crucial time from a standpoint of feminine energy and the ascension of feminine energy and the transformation of that femininity and things of that nature. So in order for that to happen, first and foremost, sisters, we got to understand what's happening from a technological standpoint and how that is affecting your, not just your being, but your wombs. First and foremost. Now, I don't have the type of womb that a woman has, obviously, but I do have a womb as a man. So we're going to get into that. All right. Because there's warfare on the sisters' wombs and there's warfare on the brothers' wombs. And when we understand that, we understand, what we mean when we say archetypal and primordial. And when we really start talking about things like the original internet, cyberspace, meta information, and metadata, when we start talking about algorithms and technology and how those things operate, that very existence is happening in your wombs, in our wombs. Yes.
Real quick, what does meta mean? Like a definition, and then also, what does algorithm mean? These
Okay.
concepts are kind of new, and I just want to make sure we explain some of those intricacies so people can really follow you.
Okay. So meta has many different meanings. One meaning dealing with meta has to do with something that is, say, in its highest existence, so to speak, ascension, high science, things of that nature. So when I say meta information is, say, the totality of being able to deal with your information. So what does that mean? So meta information would be your text messages. Meta information would be your voice messages. Meta information would be what you put on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, wherever you are, your images, also your likeness. All of those things are aspects of meta information. Whatever can be saved as memory and things of that nature. That is meta information, including your memory. That's meta information. So metadata is the apparatuses or infrastructures that's used in order to be able to put all of this meta information together. So metadata would be YouTube, metadata would be Facebook, metadata would be Instagram, metadata would be Gmail, Hotmail, metadata would be these different type of Skynet networks, and things of that nature. However, information is stored. Information, whether that's your information or whatever other type of information or data that can be stored um, on these metadata apparatuses. So that's primarily what meta information and metadata is. And your meta information um, is probably worth more than anything on the planet when we talk about artificial intelligence and technology, because this
Yeah.
is what they're going to use to attempt to create immortality.
Right. There's a new phrase out there now that data is the new oil.
Correct. Absolutely. And that includes DNA, that includes all of those different things. So we just have to really, monitor ourselves, and be more strategic. I'm not telling people not to be on social media and things of that nature, but there's certain things you don't need to put on social media. Certain things should be sacred to you, to your family, things of that nature. So we just have to, really pay attention to, how we're moving and those things, especially understanding that regardless of how great your life is, you're in a war zone. And we have to understand that. When you turn on the television, you are at war. When you go to school, universities, you are at war. I don't care how many degrees you have or how smart you think you are at war when you're at universities. These economic systems, you are at war dealing with these economic systems. Cryptocurrency and all these different things. I will never tell anyone what to do or not to do. I'm just going to give knowledge, and you go study, you go research, you consult with your intuition and things of that nature, and you do what you feel is necessary. But be very clear. Cryptocurrency is not going to be what people think it's going to be. The metaverse is not going to be what people think it's going to be. And you have to understand that. When you understand this technology, you understand because it's war. Why would they want to encapsulate you into a metaverse or a some type of a virtual landscape, so-called virtual reality, mixed reality, augmented reality, virtual environment? Why would they want to encapsulate you into these things? Now, when we deal with metaverse and we start getting into 5G, which is not an infrastructure yet, but once 5G is an infrastructure, this is when you'll start seeing these virtual landscapes take off. And until that happens, they won't. And that's what's happening right now. That's why it's not taking off, because this 5G has to be an infrastructure for it to take off, because that technology needs to exist for certain things to exist in those landscapes, like your digital twins and avatars and things of that nature, to be more human-like. 6G will take that to an entirely new level if those things are to happen. But the point I want people to understand, let's look back at this cryptocurrency.
I'm so glad you brought that in, because
okay.
I don't know if you know, brother, brother, he's out of California as well, but I believe he's in the Bay Area. He is a member of the nation. He's a millennial.
Okay.
19 Keys. Thanks, honey. My husband downstairs listening. And
yes.
I have a good friend, Omawali Africa. Shout out to Omawali. He also has a YouTube page. And he actually did a response to that, because 19 Keys, and I really like that brother. That
right.
I'm not fighting with other Black people. This is
exactly.
not a fight.
Exactly.
This is just the brother is selling it as though it's going to cure racism. And he literally said that on his Instagram live. And so my friend Omawali pointed it out and thought that was very dangerous. And so I want you to share, your perspective as someone who is a researcher, has been researching these things for decades.
Well, yeah, he is definitely a brilliant brother. When it comes to the cryptocurrency, I know he's very well studied when it comes to that. But it's a lot of different areas that we have to deal with. Like the racism comment, I didn't hear it, so I'm only basing it off of what is being said right now. Nothing. You can't cure a psychopath, so you will not cure racism. Let's be very clear. Like, it just is what it is. It's nothing deep about it. Racism is an extension of psychopaths. Race is an extension of psychopaths. When you deal with psychopaths, anything that psychopaths do will be an extension of that psychosis. Now, is cryptocurrency an extension of psychopaths? Is Bitcoin an extension of psychopaths? Yes. Is this so-called reset an extension of psychopaths? Yes. Now, what has happened when we've had to deal with the extension of psychopaths? Yeah, I think people understand the answer to that question, literally and figuratively. So we know when you deal with psychopaths, we understand what the results are. Now, again, I'm not telling people not to, do whatever it is that they're going to do. Just be very, very strategic and understand what you're doing. That's what I'm saying. Because it's, like you said, it's very dangerous when we start talking about these virtual landscapes. Because once you become part of these virtual landscapes, and it's different than the virtual landscape of yesterday. This is a different virtual landscape. The purpose is to immerse you completely into the landscape. Meaning, on social media, you're outside of social media. The virtual landscape, the purpose is to put you inside the actual media. That's what the headsets are for. See, it's a science behind, how these scientists and developers and different people operate when it comes to technology. So it's one thing to understand these, these certain topics, Bitcoin and cryptocurrency and land mining and, all these different things that people are doing. But at the end of the day, if you don't understand technology, if you don't understand AI, you have no clue what's really happening. People today are 50 years old and don't understand what a digital phone does to their body, what it does to their spirit.
Right.
What virtual headsets and these games and things, what it's doing to their imagination, how it affects them neurologically, how it affects how their neurons operate, how it affects the bridges from their brain to other parts of their bodies. People don't understand this, how the trauma creates neural networks and connections through those video games. I'm not even getting into how it affects children. So these are adults who will have major issues, depression, anxiety, mental illness. All of these things are already happening and will further happen and be more expanded once the technologies for virtual so-called reality become more advanced, so to speak, more immersive, so to speak. Immersive types of technology. Immersive extended reality. This is all part of virtual reality. What does immersive mean? Who's being immersed? You are. Into what? The so-called virtual reality or the illusion. But the illusion will seem so real that you will become a slave to it. And we already see it. We know people already addicted to social media, addicted to whatever else on video games and things of that nature.
No, that's exactly right. And I want to hear more about, you mentioned it earlier, something about the womb.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to hear more about that, because that's the first time I think I've heard you say that in this context.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So again, because of I pay attention to energy, I pay attention to the time. So I felt it was necessary to roll this back out. I was dealing with this 10, 12 years ago. Because again, I was taking every aspect of human experience that I could, and I was dealing with it from the standpoint of artificial intelligence and technology. So let's look at this. So when I say womb, I'm talking about two wombs. I'm talking about the archetypal woman's womb, the African woman, and I'm talking about the archetypal womb, meaning the male womb. All right, the African man or male. That's what I'm talking about. So obviously, we're clear on what the womb is for women. The womb for a man is his scrotum sac. All right. That is a womb because life is produced there. That's where the seed is. So that seed obviously have to interface with the woman's womb and the egg and so on and so forth. And we know how procreation happens. Now, this is important to understand why, because that's where the attack is. Now, I can take this from so many different angles and how they're attacking.
Francis Cress Wilson.
Absolutely. How they're attacking these wombs. I can, it's so many different angles, whether it's food, whether it's through things like fibroids and these different things, and they're taking women's wombs out. And I mean, I don't think people ever ask the question, what do they do with those wombs?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So it's important to understand what's happening here because you have other women who have problems procreating, giving birth, and things of that nature, getting pregnant. That's a major factor. You have these transgenders and transsexuals who wants to get to the point where they think that they'll be able to, meaning men, have babies. All right. So this is very relevant when we talk about these things and where the technology is headed. We're talking about a type of psychosexual perversion. All right. This is a technology. These things are artificial intelligence. We understand the birth process, and it takes a man and a woman. We understand that. It takes masculine and feminine in order to give birth. So again, when you deal with psychopaths, you're dealing with the extension of being out of order and in chaos. All right. This is what you're going to deal with. So it's important to understand this process. Now, something that's even deeper when we talk about breastfeeding. Now, again, remember, we're talking about war. Everything I'm talking about, the undercurrent is war. When we talk about the woman's womb, the undercurrent is war. It's a war on your womb. When we talk about men, it's a war on your scrotum or your womb. It's a war. Be very clear. Genocide. Let's be very clear. It is a war. Intentionally, strategically, and specifically for you, for us. You cannot question that. If you are a very unstudied, unresearched person. All right. Now, breastfeeding. This is why I brought breastfeeding up. Now, sisters, I need you to bear with me right quick. You might not like what I'm about to say. When we deal with breastfeeding, now, obviously, if a woman is not able to breastfeed, we understand that, okay? If a woman is able to breastfeed and she makes a conscious decision, whether in ignorance or not, that is an act of war against not only that child, but our people.
Wow.
And our ancestors. Let's be clear. Now, let me go deeper into that. Let me qualify it. So, why is this treason? Black women who understand the power of their breast milk will understand what exists in it. The primordial, archetypal, organic, ancestral keys and codes, not only to the beginning, but also to forever. This is why it is an act of war and an act of treason, because you are not passing this on to your child. You are not passing on your intelligence, your mother's intelligence, your mother's mother's intelligence, your mother's 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 intelligence, your mother's 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 intelligence, and so on and so forth to that child. Also, that breast milk is immunity. That breast milk already has within it, or the woman's body itself already has in it, from the baby's saliva, how to understand what the baby needs as far as healing is concerned, if the baby needs healing. And it will come out through the breast milk. This is the power of breast milk. So when we say breast milk, we need to understand that is an internet. That is a cyberspace. That is meta information. The breast itself is metadata, that meta information is able to come through. The nipple is metadata, that meta information is able to come through. From eons and eons and eons of intelligence, from eons and eons and eons of intuition, from eons and eons and eons of imagination. This is why they give you Similac. See, Similac is what? It's artificial intelligence. It's all kind of stuff in that. What is it called? High fructose corn syrup.
Yes.
That's in Similac. All of these things that's in Similac that is shutting down many aspects of that child. This is why they don't want you breastfeeding. See, our babies, it's a reason our babies holding their head up coming out the womb. It's the reason our babies are far surpassed of any other so-called race or people.
You teaching now. Brother Amos Wilson wrote a whole book on that in 1978.
That's right. Amos Wilson. Absolutely.
That's right.
See, those ancestors. That's what I'm talking about. See, we got these YouTube clips, right? When I say clips, I'm talking 2-3 minute clips. The TikTok clips, right? And that's what the youngsters are coming up with now. And they think that that's knowledge and that's research. Those are just footnotes. If you ain't read the book, you don't understand. And this is what we have to understand. And this is the difference between a lot of what we seeing with scholarship today versus the scholarship that we saw the last generation and the generations that preceded that. There was real scholarship, not microwaveism. We got to dig deep into these topics to really understand what it is that we're dealing with. You're talking about infinite data. That infinite data is, at least from that perspective, is cut off when the breastfeeding does not occur. Now, remember, it's an act of war. And I'm talking about women who make the conscious decision, whether they're ignorant of it or not. Doesn't mean you can't change from this point on. If you have a baby in the future, you didn't do it. But if you have a baby in the future, now you understand the importance of breastfeeding. At least attempt to. Do everything that you can to breastfeed. Do everything that you can to stay out of those hospitals. Now, I'm the person that's talking to you that's been through home births. I've been through the entire process. So I'm not just somebody who's talking to you from a book. I understand the entire process, whether it's with a doula or without. I've done both, with a doula and without. So I'm very clear and understand the process from a male's role and how he's supposed to support. And also I know the process from a standpoint of the woman and what she deals with and what she goes through and her entire process and the herbs that she has to take during pregnancy. Once the baby comes, the whole process. I've been there, I know. So I'm speaking from experience, not just reading and research, but experience. This is of extreme importance that we understand it. All right. And this is the genetic modification that we're talking about. So when sisters aren't breastfeeding and it's the Similac, now that baby has been enrolled into some type of form of genetic modification. Just like the water we all may drink every day. The food we may eat every day, regardless of how healthy you are, you're still dealing with some type of biological or biochemical warfare. You can't get away from it. Because even if you go somewhere in the mountains, you still got to deal with a soil that's not your soil. So you still got some things that you have to deal with. That's why we have to be able to offset things, but we have to do our best to do things in an organic, archetypal way. That's imperative. The sacred feminine, let's look at that. The sacred feminine is being perversed. That's why you have feminism, LGBTQ 1, 2, 3, 4, all these different things. That's why you have it. All right, to desecrate femininity. If you desecrate femininity, you desecrate masculinity. Why? Because where does these babies come from? Out of whose womb? Who's the nurturer for those 40 weeks, the gestation period? Who's the main nurturer when the baby is initially born? The breastfeeding. A man is not breastfeeding. You understand? So if we're going to take responsibility, let's take responsibility. If we're going to take accountability, let's take accountability. It all starts there. Period. So we understand it's an attack on the entire family. It's an attack on the mother. It's an attack on the father. It's an attack on the babies. All right. So there's 3 different attacks taking place in the household. Be very clear, though, it's overstood. The most important attack is the woman. It's very clear. Now, sisters, I know this is putting a lot on you, but this is the science. When we deal with ancient Kemet, you deal with Ma'at. Every so-called pharaoh or king or queen that you see on the throne, guess what they're on? They're standing on a square or a rectangle. That is anthropomorphically the symbolism of Ma'at. Ma'at is feminine. When we deal with those principles, it's feminine. Be very clear. So we understand the foundation. Sisters, you the foundation. And we all have a role in this because we've all been bastardized by America. Let's be very clear. So sisters, we know sisters are operating outside of themselves. Brothers, we know brothers are operating outside of themselves. We have to get back to ourselves. The way we get back to ourselves, we do the things that's archetypal. That's how we get back to ourselves. The sooner we're doing those things, the better. All right? Because they've been suppressing divinity as long as white folks been in power. Because you know white people, white men hate women in general. You know that. That's Greece, that's all of that. Rome. All you gotta do is do the study, do the history. If you're Christian, look at the Bible. It's not saying nothing favorable about women. The Bible is anti-woman. So even when you deal with so-called religion and so-called God, it's a hatred for the woman. All that is artificial intelligence because it's not archetypal to you. It's not your essence. It's not who and what you are. It's not your true divinity. Feminism is Europathology. It's behavior modification. You've been modified to act a certain way.
That behavior modification is crucial. You're the first person I've heard put it that way, but that's exactly how it manifests in our community. Behavior modification. And Absolutely. It's insanity at some point because these people don't even realize they are socialized against their own interest.
Yes, absolutely.
And to me, it's like, I don't understand how they can't see it.
Yes, you're correct. And they use terms. They use terms to make people feel guilty, to make people have fear, to speak against it or to live against it. Terms like toxic masculinity, right?
And they have made that synonymous with a heterosexual black male. They have made that synonymous, despite the fact that we literally have centuries of evidence showing that white men are the ultimate oppressors, murderers, killers, and everything, just savagery, pure savagery across continents. But somehow heterosexual black men rise to the top for these people, and they don't see anything wrong with that.
Right. And that term didn't come from women. Listen to me. Toxic masculinity didn't come from a woman. See, this is the sickness and the dysfunction. Toxic masculinity came from transgender transsexuals. What does that tell you? Who is it that they hate? The power of black men. They don't just hate women or men. It's the power of us African men, black men. That's why we're the ones that was targeted with toxic masculinity. What's another term? Narcissist. That's another term they use. See, we got to understand what these terms means. Homophobic. Another term. We got to understand what these terms mean. You think a black man came up with that term? Or a black woman? No, black women, you didn't come up with any of these terms. You're simply following the behavior modification paradigm and programming that white men gave white women to give to you. That's how it operates. So let's be very clear. Again, artificial intelligence, because you're not who you are. And all of this is strategic. It is not your fault. I'm saying, as a brother to you, it is not your fault. Now that you understand this, if you don't do anything, it's your fault. Black men, same thing. Now that you understand these things, if you don't do anything, it's your fault. So let's be very clear. At some point, you have to take full responsibility and accountability for who and what you are, how you operate, how you move, so on and so forth. You have to take responsibility and accountability for that. You can't keep blaming other people. Those people, they'll be held accountable at some point. They'll be held responsible at some point. But you got to be you, who you really are, to even hold them accountable anyway. Else all you're going to be doing is what? Complaining. Every time somebody get killed in the street, black people complaining. But what are we going to do? Again, you're talking to someone front line in the street, in the homes with those families of those police terrorism, terrorized brothers and sisters, in the home with the family, strategizing with the family. That's who is speaking right now. I have the right to speak. I'm very clear and I understand exactly what takes place in those situations. I understand that town hall meetings are a waste of time. Why are they a waste of time? They're a waste of time because the purpose of them is so that the police department and the government can have surveillance on who is who. That's the only purpose for those town hall meetings. You will never get what it is that you truly desire from those town hall meetings. I'm not telling you not to do it. I'm just giving you the reality. Be very clear on some of these organizations that you work with. They work with the government. Pay attention. Where did Black Lives Matter come from? Pay attention. Who were the so-called leaders of Black Lives Matter? LGBTQ. Pay attention. Now, all of a sudden, everything that's supposed to be us is related to LGBTQ 1, 2, 3, 4, pi, all that. That's what's happening. They are taking away your manhood. They're taking away the womanhood. These are the things that they're taking away. All right. Now, let's get back to transhumanism. Transhumanism, the purpose of transhumanism and the black woman's womb, because where are they putting those wombs at? Are other women getting those wombs that don't look like you? Are those wombs for clones, so to speak, or androids? These are the questions you have to ask yourself. Well, how can this immortality exist technologically that they talk about, that they speak of? How is it going to exist without you? No artificial intelligence exists without you. That's fact. That's truth. There is no computer without your brain. There is no computer, no quantum computer without your intuition. Those things are mimicking you. There is no virtual reality without your imagination. It's mimicking your imagination. There's no attempting to create consciousness artificially without your consciousness, even though that will never happen.
I was just gonna say you have predicted that they will not
It
be
will never happen.
successful. Okay.
It will never happen. You, in order to be conscious, you have to be archetypal. You have to be organic. You have to be human. How are you going to have consciousness without that?
And you're on that now, but you were mentioning something about the laws and
Okay.
how they're changing definitions and sort of like changing laws and reality. Can you speak a little bit to that?
Yes, absolutely, I can. So this is in relationship to overt 19. Some of you call it COVID-19. First, it was covert because y'all didn't know what the hell was going on, even though we was ringing the alarm. Then it became overt because now people start understanding what it really means, and it was so much in your face, yet people still roll with it. So overt 19 is what I call it. Overt 19. This is related to that. Why? Because when you deal with those shots, they're not vaccines, they're shots. Even when you deal with virus, is it even a virus? It's biochemical warfare. That's another conversation. Laboratory. So let's look at this. So when you deal with the shot, mRNA, messenger RNA, so it's already telling you it's sending a message. Well, what's the damn message? Whatever it's programmed to be. What's in the shot? What is the shot doing? What the shot is doing is it's a 3-step process. And I don't remember the process offhand, but I can tell you what the end game of that process is. Primarily what happens is you're going to have blood clotting. Period. You cannot get around it. That is why so many people are having heart attacks, strokes, and all of these different ailments based on the clotting of blood. This is why there were so many issues with children getting these shots as well, because of blood clotting. Well, there's particular things in the shot that causes blood clotting. That is not an accident. It also depletes your immune system, quote unquote, immune system. So the very thing that's supposed to assist you is not. Now, I'm getting to it. Once you took the shot, you are no longer human. Let me not say it like that. According to the judicial system, humans who took the vaccine, quote unquote, vaccine shot, can be patented, owned. That's what patented basically is going to mean. Owned and considered transhuman. If you're considered transhuman, you're not a human. You're not considered a human. Now, what was the last time we know as Black people we was considered 3/5 of a human? What that looked like? So now they're saying you'll be considered transhuman, meaning you will not be considered human. What you think that'll look like? If you're patented, a patent means somebody owns something. Is that correct? That's what a patent means. Someone owns something. So based on the patent regarding the shot and what's in the shot and what is now in your body, your cells, your bloodstream, your organs, so on and so forth, you are now considered a transhuman. Now, what does that mean? No human rights. You're considered a new species. No human rights. You're considered a new species. So see, now we're getting into areas that people have no clue or idea is happening. This gets into the ethics of technology. Now, who is determining the ethics in these technologies? Not us, psychopaths. Now, let me say this. Most of us are the ones that are creating the technologies. But someone else is getting credit for it, like Google and whomever else. They're getting credit for it. Microsoft, whoever else, they're getting credit for it. So they own it, they control it, and then it becomes the extension of the psychopath and whatever it is that they have intended and planned. Behavior modification.
Right. That's
Right.
what this brother's asking about. How do we deal with that?
Right. So the way you're going to deal with behavior modification, first and foremost, is you're going to have to get sick and tired of being sick and tired. You're going to have to be consistent. You're going to have to be disciplined. You're going to have to stop being distracted. You're going to have to focus. You're going to have to tap into things that are greater than these different aspects of artificial intelligence. What does that mean? Your imagination, your intuition. You're going to have to tap into these powers that exist within yourself. Now, to even be able to tap into that, first and foremost, you're going to have to restructure your being. You're going to have to restructure your subconscious mind. You're going to have to restructure your neurological self. These are the things that have to happen because the behavior modification is based on the programming of those things. So as long as those things are programmed, those layers of programs are not allowing you to open up that gateway to get to the true essence and divinity of who and what you are, because you are already those things. It's already in you. Now, once you summon it, and if that's truly your intention, your entire being will do everything in its power to get back to it and manifest it. Now, there are certain things that can be done. Those are things that I deal with people who are ready to do one-on-one consultations. It's not something that you can train someone in a interview. It's certain things that have to be done one-on-one. There's particular methods and techniques and things of that nature that will assist a person to be able to overcome the fear, overcome the trauma, disconnect those bonds, and again, create new neural architecture or new neural networks or new neural software, so to speak, to be able to tap into and create and manifest the divine essence of our spiritual technology and who we are, to be able to exert that power at will, to be able to create that magic and manifest that magic at will, not like an event, but an everyday type of manifestation that one is able to tap into, just like you tap into the news every day. Well, the opposite of that is you being able to tap into your quote unquote God consciousness every day. Imagine if you was working that program 24/7 instead of CNN, ABC, Fox, CNBC, and all of those channels that are there to program you. Television, program. They're telling you what they're doing to you. And it's narratives. Those narratives are intentional and strategic. Those narratives themselves are algorithms. An algorithm is a step-by-step process or procedure for calculation or measurement. Again, a step-by-step process or procedure for calculation or measurement. So the process is the news, or the procedure is the news. It's programming. The calculation or measurement is you being programmed to what degree and what extent and how they do it. And it's all a science. We know the science, but you can use the same science to reconstruct your beingness, because it's all magic at the end of the day. It's all ritual. It's all sigil. It's all symbols. It's all of those different things. You can do it yourself to deprogram and reprogram yourself. The problem is many of us don't know how to do it. Some of us do. So it's important that we tap into those people who know how to do it, not from reading, but based on experience, meaning they did it themselves. Reading can be an assistance to that, but obviously the experience, they've done it themselves. They've restructured their subconscious mind. They've restructured the neurological self. They've already shown that they can tap into intuition and imagination. This is why production is important. We oftentimes overlook production. We got to stop listening to people thinking just because they're online and they got something to say that they actually can apply it. Knowledge is nothing without application. You don't know anything until you can apply it. period. If you can't apply it, you don't know it. You're regurgitating it. When you can apply it, you know it. Now we can deal with wisdom, because in order to apply it, you have to go through the experience to be able to apply it. So now you have wisdom based on learning from those experiences, what you should do, what you shouldn't do, what works, what doesn't work, what the process was, what it shouldn't be. That's what's important. Where you want to go from here, sis?
That's man. Listen, you listen. The audience, me, everybody is enjoying me. You just dropping so many jewels. It's a little overwhelming to be honest with you, because a lot of this stuff is just now coming online, or like you said, it's been out there, sort of,
Yeah.
but the infrastructure, as you
Yes.
mentioned, is not fully there, but it's coming.
Yes.
I guess in our last few minutes, I'd love to talk about the spiritual technology piece, because you frame this as something that can actually help as a response to these psychopaths. What
Right.
is spiritual technology?
Okay. So let me give this example before I go in on it, right?
Okay.
So you had a teacher and you had a student, right? The teacher teaches the student, correct? But there's always something that the teacher doesn't teach the student. Number one, because you have to get to the level of the teacher or beyond the teacher to understand whatever it is that is not going to be taught to you. All right. Now, when we deal with spiritual technology, that's primarily what we're dealing with. We're the teachers. Everybody else on this planet, they the students. Even today, even with the system the way it is, we're the teachers, they're the students. Those of us who are tapped in and understand these particular sciences, what these things mean, how to implement them, we are the teachers. But you have people running around in suits and all these other things that look like they Christine and quote unquote intelligent and all these different things, but in essence, they're just students. But what happened is the teachers have lost themselves in many instances. So, spiritual technology. We are the purveyors of spiritual technology. When you talk about imagination, who has the greatest imagination on this planet? We do. When you talk about intuition, who's able to tap into intuition? No one is able to tap into it like we are. Again, the quantum computer is the mimicking and emulation of intuition. What makes intuition so powerful? It can't be calculated. You can't calculate intuition. Intuition is a power itself that unless you are truly tapping into it, you can't understand it. That's the power of intuition. Imagination is so powerful, it changes the landscape of things. A book created on someone's imagination can change the landscape of how a society thinks. It can change the landscape of how a society moves forward, their planning, their vision, things of that nature. I'm not even getting into all of the biochemical things that deal with so-called melanin and all those other things. I'm not even going there. And that connection that we know we have a great connection to more than anyone, and everyone has it. Let's not see, I don't want people to get into myth. Everyone has it. But we were touched. So we have things to a degree that other people don't have. Meta, that's who we are, meta. So when you hear meta-human is the attempt to artificial intelligently mimic the true meta-humans. We are the true meta-humans. All of the different gifts that they talk about, telekinesis, telepathy. Who you think was doing that? Before anybody else was even on the planet, we was doing that. We wasn't putting notes in bottles, putting it in the ocean. How were we communicating from the middle of Africa all the way over to Australia? How are we communicating? This is all mind science we were dealing with.
Mind science. I love that.
And I'm not talking about New Ageism. I'm talking
Right.
about concrete science, and things that we can document, and things that we have lived, and things that we do. Matter of fact, you live it right now. Everybody in the chat, you live it right now. Let me give you an example. You thought of someone recently, or it could have been 5 years ago. That person came into your life one way or another. Whether you saw them somewhere, whether you got a phone call from them, whether you saw someone who know them who slid you their number, one way or another, you came into contact with that person. Why? That's the power of the mind. You willed that person into your existence.
Manifestation.
Manifestation, visualization.
Right.
All of that is part of what I'm talking about, spiritual technology, the Empower Technology Mastery System and Ascension Blueprint. Assisting people to tap into those powers that we all have. Some greater than others, but we all have some type of gift, some type of power. But when you're dealing with behavior modification and you don't know who the hell you are and you hate yourself, you're not tapping into those things. Or you trying to be like what the government say you should be like. So you're not in authenticity. You're not in divine beingness.
You know, that is so important that you point that out because, and Sister Patricia, you know, that's a good point she just made.
Yes.
But we're actually socialized to fear our power in this arena.
Yes, absolutely.
They know who we are. Some of us don't know who we are.
Yes, that's the entire program.
Right.
So what did so-called racism, white supremacy do to black people? Made black people think they were inferior. What did it do to white people? Made them think they were superior. See, so it kind of did some programming on both sides. People don't pay attention to the other side and what happened over there. See, those are things we got to pay attention to. And this is why I always reference Neely Fuller and Frances Cress Welsing. And I deal with those 9 areas of what they call people activity. I call it human experience, those 9 areas: education, entertainment, economics, politics, religion, sex, war. I think I left out labor and law. Those are the 9. They should all have an asterisk now that says technology. They're all technology driven now. And now I'm adding a 10th with all due respect. The 10th is technology, because technology itself needs its own area. That's where we are. So on one hand, you have in this 3rd dimensional consciousness, or the physical material realm or world, you have artificial intelligence technology. On the other hand, what you have, which supersedes 3rd dimensional consciousness, physical reality, which is spiritual technology. When you operate from spiritual technology, you're operating from a 5th dimensional paradigm. 4th dimension is in between. The 5th dimensional paradigm is when you are now able to tap into these particular aspects of yourself and live them. Not play with them, not claim to be a healer or empath or Reiki and all of these other things that people say they masters at from a weekend course. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about people who are able to tap into that 5th dimensional consciousness. And it's a lot of things that come into play in order to get there. A lot of things. It's not just tapping into yourself. That's one of the things. Because there's going to be things that assist you to tap into yourself. Like other people. Like reading. Like experiences. These things help you tap into yourself because people are on different levels. This is why I read books and have read books of people who I was very clear was on higher levels than I was at the time to assist me to get to the next level. That's why. So you mentioned Amos Wilson. I read Amos Wilson books. I'm very familiar with Amos Wilson. I'm very familiar with Dr. Ben, so on and so forth. You name them. I've read them, chances are. I'm familiar with their work, chances are. All of that is important in the process. You loving yourself is important in the process. If you don't love yourself, none of it matters. Because you're going to always go back to self-hate. Or it always comes back to love. We don't talk about that enough. People want to go to war, but don't love themselves. You're not going to war. We got to understand that. People are liabilities, but they out here talking about war and revolution and activism and organizing. But as soon as you get these people in the same room, you can't be in the same room because these people haven't done the healing or the personal work that's necessary. So they jealous, they envious, low self-esteem, insecure, don't know how to stay in their lane, self-sabotage the whole damn organization. All these things is what take place, or the movement. Because it starts with the individual first. Else you're going to bring all your trauma, all your fears into the fold. Period. Experienced it over and over and over again. So it's that personal healing that matters first and foremost. Reparations, wonderful. Doesn't matter if it's no healing. You're giving the money right back. Because you don't love yourself. You don't understand self-reliance. You don't understand unity. You don't understand these things that's very necessary in order to move forward in an organized, strategic fashion. So people don't want to do the personal work is what I'm saying. Those who do desire to do the personal work, well, those are our superheroes or our superheroes. Those are the ones. Contact them. Talk to them. Learn from them. Love them. Respect them. Appreciate them. Honor them. Revere them. But also honor, revere, respect, and love yourself.
That's so
Deify
good.
our babies. Deify the babies.
Right.
Stop deifying white men and white, so-called white gods.
Right.
Deify your mother. Deify your father. Deify your ancestors. Deify your babies.
Right. That's right. That's exactly right. Brother, this has been powerful again. And I got your contact information up there because you also offer, and I want to make sure the audience hears this because this is the second time that you've been on Real Talk. You offer consultations to help people with what you were just talking about, to help people heal, to help people love themselves, and to empower. So for people who are just rejoining us again, please, please, please make sure you all reach out. There's his email right there on the screen for you. You can follow him on Instagram and Facebook. The brother is reachable. And he is a great asset for our community in this time. Absolutely, brother. I really appreciate you. And like I said, you always have an open invitation to this show. If there is any new material you think that's critically important to get out to our folks, just hit me up and let me know. And we will definitely get it going. Thank you so much. I appreciate all that you do. And I appreciate you being willing to come on platforms like these and share these tools, share this knowledge with the people. So before we go, is there any final thoughts you want to share with the folks who are still listening with us right now before we wrap?
All right, so let me just say this. This technology and this AI is not about fear.
Right.
All right. But we need to focus more on the spiritual technology side.
Right.
All right. That is why the platform Empowered Technology Mastery System and Ascension Blueprint is about you tapping into the spiritual technology. The artificial intelligence, or what mimics the spiritual technology or the organic technology, the authentic technology, can never be more powerful.
Right.
All right. We have to understand that.
Right.
The key, though, is for us to be able to manifest that spiritual technology, which I've already laid out what that is. So that's what it's about. It's not about fear. It's about us becoming our true divine selves and manifesting that, walking in that, living in that. And at that point, that's when we will be able to do the things that we are here to do. And there will be a totally different landscape than what we see and are experiencing right now. The key to all of this artificial intelligence is the acceptance of it.
And you know what? Before we leave, because next week we're going to have a brother on that's going to be talking about techno-fascism. Because
Okay.
one of the things that I'm noticing, especially with this Russia and Ukraine situation,
Mhm.
these tech giants, I noticed it even before Russia, these tech giants have a lot of power. And it's
Absolutely.
unregulated power,
Mhm.
in terms of they can shut you down. You know what I mean? And there's no process really. Like they're wielding a lot of power. I saw the news article that Instagram
Mhm.
shut down operations completely for Russians.
Right.
And you have people, because you pointed this out, you have people that now rely on social media for income.
Correct.
That's listen, we have got to talk about that. These people can censor you, they can shut you down. I'm really, really, I can't say that I'm shocked, but the politicians here in America at least seem to be just sitting on their hands around this issue, because
Mhm.
these giants are so big now. To me, it runs into First Amendment rights. And
Mhm.
because we're supposed to have the freedom of saying certain things, but even
Right.
my own page, I
Right.
have been censored on my own Facebook page.
Right.
They told me that they are using the algorithm to lower my post.
Correct. I've been through that.
And I'm like, so y'all can just do that? I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
it's nuts. So I don't know if you want to share something on that, because we're going to talk about this censorship
Okay.
and this idea of techno-fascism.
Military.
Yes.
It's all war.
Yeah.
What rights?
You got that right.
What rights? All that is an illusion.
Mm. Mm.
It's all an illusion. At the end of the day, it's an illusion. Now I understand it's different
Wee.
thought processes when it comes to this. But at the end of the day, it's all about illusion. If you don't have the power, not only psychologically, not only spiritually, militarily, it's all an illusion. See,
Mm.
they want you to think you have rights, and then you operate as such. But we know that those rights don't exist because you're not making the decisions.
Mm.
This is a reality.
Mm-hmm.
People aren't making the decisions.
Right.
Again, you can be classified however they want to classify you, whenever they want to classify you. And you
Mm-hmm.
don't know that you're being classified as such. How
Right.
many people out here got the shot, boosters and all, who have
Mm.
no idea that they are being classified as a transhuman? They won't know until it's time for them to know. And this is what I'm saying. Laws are changing.
Yes, they
Like
are.
this
In
is a
real
heavy
time.
topic. This is a heavy topic because we start dealing with status and all those different things. And when you really understand, at the end of the day, if you don't have the power to make it happen, none of that matters.
Whew. Mm.
Like that's the rabbit hole.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, you want to, you desire to have a nation, and all that is encompassed in a nation. Of course, that's the goal. But your damn show better have a military. Ask Black Wall Street. Ask Rosewood. So we got to keep moving forward, but understand at least in the third dimensional aspect of it. Now it's the spiritual aspect of the warfare that supersedes that warfare.
Right.
But we don't understand what's going on here yet, so it's no need for me to talk about that.
Mm.
That's why I don't talk about aliens and all those other things, because people don't understand what's going on in their house or
Mm.
on their block,
Mm.
more or less this country. So there's no need to talk about what's going on with Mars and Pluto and all these other places that no one has been to. Why are we having those conversations? Right?
Right.
Okay, so um I do have what I call a library of consciousness.
Mm.
This library of consciousness, I've written 14 books. 10 of those books are in print. So if anyone would like that library of consciousness with those 10 books, contact me. That'll be available. if you want the book that the sister has that she has invested in, which I'm truly grateful. That is a package, and some things come with that. I wanted to create ritual and sigil because it's important that we get back to that. So it's not just a book. You have a bookmark that represents certain things. You have
Yep.
the um the other
Journal.
book, the journal. There you go. Thank you. You
I
have a
got
journal
you.
that comes with it. All right.
This is
You
my
also
journal.
have, yes, that's the journal. The journal is just as important as the book. You can use the journal for whatever purposes you choose
Got
to.
that beautiful unk on the
Yes,
cover.
yes. You also have the Palo Santo. The Palo Santo wood, whenever you want to be in creation mode and manifestation mode, and when you want to bring in the proper type of energy into your space, you burn that Palo Santo wood that she's showing right there. Um, and there's other reasons too. You can look it up for yourself, determine what's best for you in your process. Also, also it's a mark, it's a highlighter that comes with it, and a pencil that comes with it. Obviously, that's how you create magic with those type of things. They're sigils to take things out of your mind. Yes, the highlighter, of course, or the bookmark can take you right back to where you were the last time you were in the book to recreate that magic or that space. And then you have the Ma'at feather. The Ma'at feather is an ostrich feather. When you deal with Ma'at, the ostrich is the anthropomorphic symbolism that Ma'at is related to because of the uprightness of the ostrich,
Right.
because of the balance and equilibrium of the ostrich. So you want to use that Ma'at feather as well for your rituals and your sigils and the processes of what you're doing. There are certain things that my wife does with that ostrich feather to assist her in the things that she does, because it's not just me doing the magic in this house. My wife does a tremendous amount of things that definitely assist us in what we're doing and how we're moving forward. So that's another thing. If you are in a relationship, be very clear that both of you should have certain roles in that relationship to bring forth the reality that um, that you both envision. You definitely should have something that you envision together. And if you have something that you envision for yourself, there should be support for that. So those are things that can assist you with that comes in that package. So that's that. So again, I want to thank you. I look forward to coming back. We'll definitely do something else at some point for sure. I appreciate
Absolutely.
you. I appreciate your platform. I love what you're doing. Continue to do it. We need the powerful sisters out here doing this, spreading the
Absolutely.
word from that perspective. It's important. Just as I went in on, artificial intelligence or biological warfare, artificial intelligence, and the archetypal womb.
Right.
I'm only doing it until it's women who are doing it. I won't need to. I don't know
Right.
of any women that's really going in on that angle.
Neither do I.
I prefer not to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But until it's women that are doing it, um, I'll keep putting that word out there, and hopefully that'll motivate some women to tap in, because they'll be able to do it much better than I can, because they're women and they have that type of a womb to really, go in on the idiosyncrasies of the womb and the feelings and the connection with the baby, and, all of those different things that I don't go through during that 40-week gestation period or
That's
breastfeeding.
right. That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much again, brother. I just want to encourage everyone, if you all are not subscribed to the YouTube and Rumble pages, if you're still with us, looking on Facebook and on Twitter, make sure you head over to Rumble. Make sure you head over to YouTube and subscribe to the channel. Next week, we will have Brother Tony Lindsay on, and we will be talking about techno-fascism, or how technology companies, social media companies are wielding government level types of control over the voices of regular citizens. So he will be sharing about that. And I look forward to the conversation. Same place, same time, always Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, unless we make a change. So with that, thank you, Brother Siddiqui Bakari. Again, much appreciation to you and the wisdom that you always drop on our people. Like I said, you're always welcome to come back on this platform. But until then, everyone, good night, and we will see you next week. Good night, everyone.